I was doing some research to try and work out how involved Cardano users are, or how active they are, how chatty they are in various different social platforms such as Twitter, Discord, and Telegram. And I found that the communities that had a strong governance part in their ecosystems were some of the communities that were the most vocal and most involved. And I find the ones that didn't have a good governance process, or engaged governance, I should say, were the ones that were a little bit quieter within their ecosystems. And this led me down a little journey to trying to see what was happening in the ecosystem at the moment in terms of governance, what projects were putting up proposals for voting, etc. And I looked through Minswap, and they've got a really interesting proposal going on at the moment about the ADA rewards for the voting that they did earlier this year in Project Catalyst. And I also looked at Indigo and their voting process, and they're a really involved ecosystem in terms of governance, and their current proposal around changing the amount of collateral needed for minting iUSD is quite interesting, and you can see the vocal responses from the community around it. And then the last one, the really vocal one, I'll put up screenshots about how the community reacted about this one as well, but this is around CIP-1694 and the entire governance of the Cardano blockchain. And seeing how people reacted to that particular proposal that went out for voting was quite interesting. And I go through all this in this video, so on your way in, give me that thumbs up, click subscribe, click the notification bell. Lots of really cool things happening in the Cardano ecosystem. Governance is one big thing. Let's get into it. I love seeing governance in action, and Minswap is one project that is really pushing forward all the governance, including their community in all these decisions they're making on the DEX. Now, earlier this year for Project Catalyst, they put out a proposal to decide whether or not to register the ADA in the liquidity pools for voting in Project Catalyst. So this came into question and got 921 votes for yes, let's register the LP ADA and go through a voting process. Now, fast forward a little bit, the Minswap team did register that ADA and came up with a really good short list of projects that they were going to use to vote upon. And they let the community engage with that list, decide which projects should be voted for, and the Minswap team went ahead and did that vote. Now, the team has now received that ADA for voting in that particular fund. They've received 45,598 ADA for voting. And now they're putting up the question, what are we going to do with that ADA rewards? And they do have a couple of options here. The first being distribute 75% of the ADA rewards to Min holders who voted on the Minswap Governance Catalyst vote. The remaining 25% of rewards would go to use to cover expenses of distribution and reward the group of volunteers that vetted the proposals. I think that personally is a really good way of using those funds, rewarding the people that actually participated in that process. The other option there was to give all the rewards there to the DAO as protocol-owned liquidity. So do we reward the people that went through that governance process and came up with the various projects that were going to be voted on, or give all the rewards to the DAO as protocol-owned liquidity? So interesting to see where this one goes. This is all up for vote now, so you can vote for it if you're a Minswap holder. If you participated in that particular Project Catalyst experiment, it essentially was an experiment, you can vote for this on-chain with the options of either passing option 1 to distribute the ADA rewards to the participants, or distribute all the rewards to the DAO as protocol-owned liquidity. Check that one out. If you're involved in the Minswap ecosystem, jump on board and decide what's going to happen with that ADA rewards that were distributed. Having a look at the current votes, there are 544 people that have voted at the moment. Looks like they're all going for option 2 at the moment. Most of the people are voting for option 2 to have that liquidity moved over to the DAO. Another really interesting governance process is what we see in the Indigo community. I think Indigo has got one of the strongest governance communities on the Cardano blockchain since day one. Indigo was focused purely on a lot of the governance and letting the community control and decide what happens on the protocol. Now, this I thought was quite interesting, and this came out from Cardano Spot. They highlighted that the iUSD is depegged at 90 cents USD. I had no idea that this was going on. I don't keep up with every single thing in the ecosystem, but I did have a look at this one to find out where and how it's looking at the moment. And if you have a look at the coin market cap here at the charts, if this data is accurate, we can see that the iUSD has been trading below $1 for quite a while. So this is looking back at a month. But if I go a little bit further, let's go back to September. It has been trading well below that $1 mark for quite a while. I wonder if people are trading this, hoping that it will go up again and thus making a little bit of profit when it eventually does go back up and repegs itself. You can see here it's actually gone up and down quite a lot since the launch of this particular synthetic asset. There we go. So I think the launch is around there earlier this year. So we can see the assets going up and down, okay, and mostly down below that $1 peg at the moment. Not good to see. Now, if we go back to this Twitter thread here, and we can read a little bit more details. There's a community member clarifying exactly what's going on here. So the proposal is to increase the minimum collateral required to 150%, designed to stabilize iUSD by making it more expensive to mint, so reducing its supply overall. Temporary fix, and we should see Indigo V2 expected in the first quarter 2024, which will help with a lot of this in the future. Now, I did check the source tweet of this as well from the Indigo account. So it's pretty much the same here. So it's all on-chain voting that's going to happen. Now, this one here is quite interesting. There's a notice here. If this proposal passes on the 26th, so today's the 23rd that I'm recording this, users have 48 hours to modify their positions before the change goes into effect on the 28th of November. That's interesting. So if I had a CDP that was at that 120% mark, and then this increases to 150, it puts my assets at risk for potential liquidation. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Now, just reading over some of these comments here, they're really quite interesting to get a feel of how the community is reacting to this. I don't think 48 hours is sufficient warning. The amount of time required to recollateralize was not provided in the proposal. This comment here, 48 hours, is nowhere near enough time to implement such a significant governance reform. The only assumption is that can be drawn is that you're actively seeking to liquidate your own holders. That is a dangerous precedent. Interesting comments. So there's one more up here I'd just like to read out. 48 hours is not sufficient. This needs 30 days grace period, or 14 days at least. People will get liquidated and will very likely never use the app again. Now, that's probably is likely. If they get liquidated, they lose their assets. Why would you come back? Now, I do want to highlight this for the community. If you are part of the Indigo ecosystem, be aware of what's happening here and what you need to do. Firstly, you need to vote for this proposal. Yes or no. Yes would mean that the protocol would hopefully repeg itself back to what it should be. And then also be aware that you need enough ADA to realign your collateralized debt positions so that you don't get liquidated and lose your assets in the process. Now, I'm not a big Indigo holder. I've only done a little bit just to play around the platform to see how it works. And I thought I'd just check on my CDP to see where it's at. And my current position here, collateral ratio, is at 227%. So I didn't go for the risky approach and do the minimum. I went well over the amount that I should have. In this case, I probably should have minted JED, and then I would have been in a very similar position using a lot more ADA to create a stable coin asset. Now, for anyone else that is in a really risky position, please check your current positions there and recollateralize them, withdraw them, do whatever you need so that you're in a better position and protecting your assets. I did play around with trying to mint a little bit more as well. And if you type in the various numbers, here 7 iUSD, with the amount of ADA that I've got, it's at 123%. Go any little bit higher, it does give me those warnings. So these warnings will be increased to 150%. Now, if you're part of the Indigo ecosystem and you do have your Indy staked so that you can vote on this proposal, please do vote for it. Be aware of what's going on here. It looks like the yeses are going to win anyway for this one. So you will be needing to change that collateral on your CDPs if you have any synthetic assets for iUSD. Now, the last bit of governance I like to point out is for Cardano itself, and this is with Intersect and CIP-1694. This is the really big one for the entire Cardano ecosystem and moving the Cardano blockchain and everything into the hands of the community. This is super important and everyone should be aware of what's happening with this one here, because it essentially means the reins, the decision making for the Cardano blockchain goes into the hands and users of the ecosystem, not controlled by IOG or the Cardano Foundation. These votes and processes now come down to us. So this goes for stake pool parameter changes, whether we release a new version of Cardano nodes for the node operators, all sorts of things. This will help start that process. And the whole idea of CIP-1694 is to build the constitution of how this all works and how Cardano would govern itself. So this at the moment is a temperature check. I should make and stress that at the moment we're just voting on whether or not we should continue with what we're doing or should we just give up and go home. Now, this has come out from all these workshops that have been happening this year, 50 or so workshops across 24 countries. Unfortunately, Australia didn't get involved on this. What's wrong with you guys? Don't you want to control and be a part of governance for Cardano here in Australia? Get on board, guys. I know there's a couple of people that are really excited about it and are a part of Intersect, but we need more of the Cardano community from Australia. We need to represent. Come on, guys. Now, anyway, the results here are expected to be displayed on the 16th December. Now, you can go through this whole article. It's a little lengthy, but it goes through the details of exactly what's going on. But I do need to stress, this is a temperature check. There was a little bit of uproar on the Cardano Twitter space where people are saying, what's going on here? What are we voting for? We're just voting if we should continue this process or not. Now, the voting can be done on the website here. I'll go back to that in a second. But you need to have had your ADA staked to a stake pool before the 20th. Time recording is the 23rd, so that has already passed. And then voting will take place on the 1st of December to the 11th, so a 10-day window to vote on this particular proposal. So this is a website here. If you want to check it out, 1694ballot.cardano.org. So they're using the same voting mechanism as they did for the Cardano Summit Awards. I thought it was a really nice voting mechanism, but it only works for hot wallets. So if you're connected to NAMI, Flint, Lace, NuFi, or Typhon, and you're using a hot wallet, that's not a hardware wallet like a Ledger or a Trezor, you'll be able to vote for this at the moment. I do believe people are trying to contribute hardware wallet voting. There's a different way where you can submit a little bit of ADA to an address, you get the ADA back, and you can verify you own that wallet. But that I don't think that's going to happen for this round. But you can connect your wallet. In this case, I'll connect my NAMI wallet here that I'm using for testing, and you can check out the ballot, and this is it here. So you'll be able to click on one of these options here, vote for this from the 1st of December, and be a part of governance on the Cardano blockchain. You'd find a lot of the crypto space is about the communities and the people around and involved in the ecosystem itself. Without those communities, these crypto projects probably won't really exist. It's all these passionate people that are being a part of the ecosystem, contributing to it, that are making it all happen. Now, if you like this type of content, if you like what I'm producing for the Cardano ecosystem, give me that thumbs up, click subscribe, click on the notification bell, or even buy a WAPU. That really helps with the channel. And I'll see you in the next video.